2020 season startup meeting for new risk managers. My name is Mary. I'm the Director of Safeguarding for Massachusetts Youth Soccer. And joining us from Massachusetts Youth Soccer are Kayla McCollum and Jessica Eldred. Okay, we're here to help you understand the responsibilities that come with your role and how to fulfill them effectively. Each of us will explain different tasks that are required and how to complete them. We also understand that some of you have additional roles within your organization, and we'll address player and fee registration requirements towards the end of the meeting. And if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. We will have about a 15-minute Q&A session at the end of the meeting. And any questions we don't get to tonight, please email us and we'll answer them that way. We also understand that you're going to be receiving a lot of information. So we're recording the meeting and we'll send the recording along with the slide deck so you can access the links that you'll see throughout the presentation. Okay, if you haven't already done so, please make sure your mic is muted. And let's see, Kayla, if you can go to the agenda. This will be the agenda for tonight's meeting. It's quite large, and so we'll get started. Jessica, you're up.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. I am here to start you guys out with where you should be starting out, the risk manager checklist. That is going to be your best point of attack to get started. I know a lot of you have already started going through this process and maybe even finished this first chunk, which has to do with your personal compliance, which is what we need to have in place in order to give you the access that you need to the Sports Connect system to manage your organization. So that consists of your actual adult registration, including all the trainings and background check, getting your name on the leadership report in that risk management role, and completing a Corey submitter agreement form. Once we get all these ducks lined up, you can shoot us an email and we'll make sure that you have the right access that you need to do what you need to do. So let's talk about the adult registration first. So this is the first piece of your compliance, and it's your registration that most of you are doing every year. It's the same process that all your adults are going to go through as well. So you'll be able to help them along as you have to do it too, right? So registration opens on July 1st. So this time of year, we're getting flooded with lots and lots of registrations and background checks. So please have patience with us. And one thing I want to point out about that is when you go to register, it's super important that they go in and they click the red button on your screen. That's going to be on the adult registration page. When they click that red button, it takes them over to the registration portal. And that's what kicks off them entering all their information and any background checks that might be necessary in a given year. So it's super important they click there and don't just log into Sports Connect directly and think it's going to launch the portal, because it's not. It needs to be through this red button. The second step is your required trainings. We have Safe Sport and Concussion. Safe Sport's good for a year, Concussion for 2 years. We'll talk about those a little more in a second. And then the third step is reviewing our required policies annually. And then one-time Corey verification, which Kayla will dig into a little bit later. So let's talk about the trainings for a second. So we highly recommend that you take the trainings through the U.S. Soccer Learning Center for one major reason. Our system talks to their system. So as long as they use the same first name, last name, and email address, it should flow right on over to the Sports Connect account and self-approve, which saves all of us time, which we love, right? So they can still take trainings through like the CDC or Safe Sport directly. And that would require them to download a certificate and then re-upload it into Sports Connect. It's a little bit more cumbersome, but it is an option. So if they do it that way, you're responsible for approving those certificates. So this chart is something I recommend having handy. I personally, for years, have had it on a sticky note, like above my computer, just for quick reference. So Safe Sport's good for a year. So I know every time I look up at my sticky note, any Safe Sport certificate that has printed on it 1/1/2024 or later is approvable. Likewise, with the concussion one, 6/1/23 or later is valid for that. One thing I want to point out is that when registration opens on July 1st every year, any old certificates are purged that no longer meet the dates that are acceptable for the current year. That said, that goes by the date that they're uploaded. So like the timestamp that someone was to upload, or maybe you helped them upload their certificate to their account, it's not necessarily based on the date that's on their certificate. So you just want to make sure you're clicking through each of your people's certificate and seeing the physical date on the certificate, not relying on that upload date. And then one last thing before, while I am on the topic of the US Soccer Learning Center and trainings and all that stuff. Those two trainings you'll find under phase 1. The center is also offering background checks now. I believe they're $24, but they are not required by Mass Youth Soccer. We run your background checks as part of your annual registration if you're due for them. You do not have to take the background check through the US Soccer Learning Center. So I just want to make that clear. So if you get any questions about that, that's a fairly new thing they have going on over there. The answer is no, you do not have to take that as far as Mass Youth Soccer is concerned. The two tools on your screen right now, the little swoopy circle thing, that's just a demonstration of the Safe Sport training. So the Safe Sport training is a 1-year requirement, but it's on a 4-year cycle. So that first year, it's about 90 minutes for that core training, but years 2, 3, and 4, you're just taking a shorter refresher course. So it's not that long training every single year. And then on the right, there is a troubleshooting guide. So should you have trouble with your certification flowing right on over to your account, you can kind of tune into this guide. You'll find it on the adult registration page within the 4 steps. And you can follow the flow chart from where you took it, what's going on with it, what you can do about it, or when you need to reach out to us or perhaps the center directly. So these are just helpful tools maybe you'll need. So the leadership report. This is where we need to see your name reflected in that risk manager position. That's something super important that we need before we can give you the access that you need. We recently launched a new governance portal. Not only does it house the leadership report now, but it also houses all the information for your organization. So there's bylaws, constitution, website, all that good stuff is all in there all at once. We recently, probably 2 weeks ago now, whoever was listed on your leadership report at that point in time should have gotten an email with login credentials for the new governance portal. If for some reason you don't have them, that person's no longer with your group, shoot Greg an email and he will get you set up with what you need to get login access to that system. And then just quickly, this is the Cori agreement submitter form. It really takes like less than 2 minutes to fill out. Super important that we have it on file. It's just a quick form site form you fill out, and then you just upload your ID for us, and we file it away with your organization. I did want to point out that we are using a new system. So if you feel like maybe you filled one out in the past and we ask you to redo one, it's just because we're trying to get all our ducks in a row and keep everything nice in the filing cabinet, so to speak. And then just to summarize, so I was just talking about that first chunk, getting you ready to do your job as a risk manager. So just in review, that includes getting your personal credential under control, your trainings, your background check, all that good stuff, that your name is on the leadership report, and that you have a Cori submitter agreement form on file. Once you've been able to check all those boxes, you're ready to shoot us an email and we'll get you the the access that you need. Now Kayla's going to take over, pilot the ship, and she is going to dive into all the things you get to do once you do have access.
Thanks, Jess. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to have you here tonight. I can't see you, but I can see your names, and I see a lot of familiar people and a bunch of new people as well. So we're so happy that you've joined us tonight. As Jess mentioned, my job tonight is to guide you through how to manage your adult members. So you're in full compliance, you're feeling good, you're feeling excited that you're going to be able to fill this role for your organization. We're going to bop around from the slide deck to the website to Sports Connect so that I can give you the most comprehensive overview of how you're actually going to be managing what you need to manage. So let's do that. I'm going to pull over my web window. So spoiler alert, if you haven't noticed, we did change website providers. So we have a new look and feel of the website. So tonight we're going to go through where you're going to find information. If you're a returning risk manager, some of the things have moved around. So I'm going to show you exactly where you can find all of the great resources we have for you. So the top of the Risk Manager webpage, I should also start by saying you'll find this webpage and all of the other web pages that we are referencing tonight
Avery,
under the...
come help me, please.
Jennifer, you're not muted, my friend.
Thank you.
Yeah. So under the Resources tab. So this is the role of the Risk Manager. This is basically everything that Jess just shared with us. All of the documents that she referenced are right here. The part that I want to focus on first is right in sort of the middle of my screen that I'm highlighting. This is our self-guided learning module section. And there are a couple of different lessons that I want to highlight and give you a preview of exactly what you're going to find when you reference these documents. The first one is lesson 1, risk managers' responsibilities and guidelines. Jess talked about that Post-it note that she likes to hang near her desk with all of the compliance dates. This is one to print out if you are like me and like a printed out version of a resource. This is the most comprehensive guide that we have. It's going to tell you exactly what to do, exactly how to do it. If you do prefer to access documents on your computer, this document, as well as most of our other documents, are hyperlinked. So if the length of the document is a little overwhelming when you open it, just know if you're just simply looking for a refresher on, say, how to print your adult credentials, you can click on the hyperlink and it's going to bring you exactly to where you want to be in that document. So again, this is lesson 1 of the self-guided modules. Lesson 2 is how to run reports in Sports Connect. Sports Connect is a lot of things, and we will talk more about that, and we'll actually dive into it in a little bit. One of the things you can do in Sports Connect is run a variety of different reports. Probably the most useful report for you all in your role is going to be the Admin Credentials Dynamic Certificate Data Report. So in addition to being a mouthful, what that is going to provide for you is a list of all of the adults who have registered with your organization. And it's going to show you where they stand with their registration requirements, what their risk status is, and where they stand with their required trainings. Then the last one I wanted to point out is lesson 4, which is how to provide security user permissions to your organization's administrators. So once you have administrative access into Sports Connect, you can actually log in and see who else from your organization has access to your program and to your data. So we would encourage you to do that and make sure that everyone that has access is supposed to have access. A lot of times there are folks who served in the risk manager role a season ago or 2 seasons ago, and we kept them in there so they could train the new person, and then they just never made their way out. So we encourage you and invite you to help us maintain the data integrity in that way. All right, so what is true on this web page and on most of the web pages on our new website is you're going to want to scroll all the way down to find lots of goodies. Lots of good information is going to be found in all of these drop downs. I'm going to point out a few. We don't have time to go through each and every one tonight, but I want to point out the adult credentials dropdown. That is going to explain what they are. And this is also where you're going to find the information, which I will talk about in a little bit, but just so, you know, plant it in your head somewhere. This is where you're going to find the information for ordering plastic sleeves and lanyards for the credentials. We also have information in the dropdowns about the adult athlete safe sport information. Mary will talk about that in a little bit. And one especially fun topic is how to credential an under 18. So again, we're not going to dive into it tonight, but just, you know, maybe someplace in the back of your mind, you can remember, oh yeah, Kayla told me something about this and it's on the Risk Manager webpage. Tonight, we're going to focus on this bottom one, the Risk Manager support resources and email templates. So we in here, as the name would suggest, we have lots of different resources, a lot of the documents you are going to actually need to do your job, and then email templates so you don't have to recreate the wheel and can use what we've created to reach out to your adult participants, to remind them to register, to remind them to complete their trainings, etc. All right, let's go into Sports Connect. I think it's time. So right now, I hopefully am still logged into our demo test club. So when you log into Sports Connect, and I should actually go back here and show you how to get there. All right, so on the Risk Manager information webpage, we have the Sports Connect login and support information dropdown. You'll click that link. All right, so when you log in, you may be directed to this page, which is your account. If that's the case, simply click on the dashboard button and it will bring you to the dashboard. All right. So on your dashboard, if you scroll down, on the right-hand side, you will see a box, a compliance widget box. We have more information on the Risk Manager information webpage that tells you and shows you how you can utilize this widget to help with your compliance. Tonight, we're actually just going to look at how to do that using the admin lookup feature. So I'm hovering over the player admin dropdown and I'm going to click on admin lookup. If nothing is showing up for you, simply click search, and then any adult who has registered should show up on your list. I will point out, because this eats so many people's lunch, mine included, when you log in, make sure that the dropdown is selecting the current playing year. It automatically shows whatever the year was when you last logged in. So if you're a returning risk manager and you're logging in for the first time, double check that you are looking in the correct playing year. So let's scroll down and we'll just use this first account as an example. Oh my gosh, Messi wants to register with us. How exciting. Let's see where Messi is at in his compliance. So when we click in, immediately we can tell that Messi has not yet completed his safe sport or his concussion, and he is not Corey verified. So then we're going to come over to the right side of his little profile, and this is where you're going to see all of the information that he submitted when he registered and created this account. When you scroll down, I want to highlight just a few pieces of this profile. First is the risk status. We're going to talk more about risk status in a little bit, but just note this is where you'll find what the risk status is and when it is set to expire. Sort of diagonal up from the risk status, there are two buttons, the Get Learning Center Updates button and the Get Safe Sport Updates button, which may be the best kept secret of Sports Connect. You'll have to let me know if you knew this or not. So you actually have the power to try to force an upload from the US Soccer Learning Center or the Center for Safe Sport. So if you have an adult participant who is insisting, no, I really took Safe Sport, I really did, and it's just not, the connection hasn't been made, you can try to click one of these buttons, depending on where they took the training or where you're trying to pull that training from. And if there's anything, it will pull into their account. The other place that you will visit when you're looking at an administrator's profile is in the Applications tab. So Messy is a great example of someone who has registered with their organization, their local organization, but has not yet registered with the Mass Youth Soccer. How do I know that, you may be wondering? Well, this right here, this club API tells me that this organization uses the Sports Connect Club product and that Messy registered just directly with his local organization and thinks he's good to go. Messy's halfway there. I'm going to switch over to the next admin for just to show you an example of what you're looking for to make sure that an individual has actually registered with Mass Youth Soccer. So what you're looking for is this adult Corey registration line for the current playing year. That means that they have registered with Mass Youth Soccer. Okay, I'm going to click back here. And I'm going to click on administrator info. And then the one last piece of this part of our demo is how to navigate your admins quickly. You may have noticed when I was showing you that example, I clicked on the next admin. So you can click through next admin and quickly see where people are at just by navigating up at the top. Okay, so let's go back to Messy. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Corey verification process. And before I do that, I'm also remembering that I didn't tell you about one of my favorite resources. For the visual and auditory learners among us, we do have a short risk manager responsibilities overview video. I think it's 4 or 5 minutes. So this can be a great resource if you just need a quick refresher on what am I supposed to be doing and where are those resources that they were telling me about. This is your, this could be a really good option for you. And I will remind you all, we will be sending out this recording and the slide deck at the end. So you'll have access to actually click the links that you're seeing on your screen. Okay, the Corey verification process. Let me take a sip because this is going to be a good one. So the Corey verification process is different from having your Corey processed. The Corey verification is checking that the personal information that we use to process the background check is correct. And something Jess taught me today, which I love, is form, face, and government ID. So when you're Corey verifying people, you need the Corey acknowledgement form. You need to see the person's face, so in person or via Zoom or FaceTime. And then you need to have a government issued ID. And I would be remiss to not mention, because I think Mary is probably thinking this right now, you can also have a notarized Corey verification process as well. So you can send in a notarized form to replace the face part of this. But most people meet face-to-face or over teleconference. So this verification happens at the local level, so that's you, and it only needs to happen one time unless a legal name change occurs. And before printing credentials, please make sure to review all of your coaches, new and returning, and make sure that they are, number one, verified correctly, and number two, that the appropriate document is uploaded as proof of verification, because the Corey verification is actually state law, so it needs to happen. And on this next slide, a visual. So we see a lot of the Corey acknowledgement form, that is the image on the right side of the page with the big X through it. That's the form that they're going to need to present to you. The form on the left-hand side of the page is the administrator proof of Corey verification document, and that is the one that you will upload into their account when they are ready to be formally Corey verified. So let's use Messy as an example of how to do this. So how lucky am I that I met Messy and I verified him and he is who he says he is. We're gonna scroll over and click to upload. And I'm going to go back to the Risk Manager webpage. I'm going to scroll down, down, down to the bottom. Under the Support Resources dropdown is where you're going to find the Administrator Proof of CORI Verification. I have already saved that on my computer, if you can believe it. So I'm going to choose my file. All right. And gives me a preview. Love it. That's exactly what I want. And click upload. Now, if you've worked in Sports Connect before, you know you've got to click a lot of buttons. So once you upload a document, click update at the bottom of the page. Okay. And next, we're going to scroll over just to double check. Yes, that is what I wanted to upload. And now you need to verify the verification document by clicking the box and then click save. And voila. Messi has been CORI verified. Well done. Okay. The last thing that I want to show you in Sports Connect this evening is how to print the adult credentials. So you're going to hover over Player Admin, and you're going to click on the IDs card section. All right. So if you click on Search, you will see your adult participants. Now, there is a little key that tells you what all of these symbols means, and I want to immediately, hopefully, quell any anxiety or worry that you may feel when you, for the first time, see somebody's name with a risk management failure next to it. That does not automatically mean that this person is suspended, okay? This just means that they don't have a risk status that is set up to print. There are only 3 risk statuses that will print: approved, conditional, and under 18 approved. So unless it's one of those, and there are many, many, many risk statuses, it's going to show a risk management failure. So most often that means that we haven't processed their background check yet, or they're somewhere in the process of having it processed. That was a lot of processes in one sentence. If you see a lock that is unlocked, that means that the person needs to complete their trainings, or their training certificates need to be verified. Okay, so Guardian Demo has not completed their training, but they have an approved risk status, so they would most likely print if their trainings were complete. The only credentials that will print are the ones with a blue box with a check mark rather, and an unlocked lock. When you're ready to print out your credentials, you'll click on the Print Admin Credentials button. You'll see a pop-up appear. Kenneth is looking great these days. And you'll click download, save, print, etc. Okay. So let's talk just a little bit more about the adult credentials, because that is a huge part of your job. As a reminder, everyone is required to have an adult credential. If an adult participates with multiple organizations, while they do need to register with each organization, they only need one physical credential. It's a universal credential. So you are responsible for printing them. We are happy to help with the, as I mentioned, the plastic sleeves and the lanyards. All you'll need to do is fill out a form, which is processed by our wonderful office manager, Carol, and we will send you those sleeves and lanyards. We do ask that you try to reuse sleeves and lanyards for your returning coaches. Let's just briefly talk about some tips from the field for distribution. If your organization hosts a kickoff meeting before the season, this can be a great time to distribute these physical credentials. Or perhaps you want to let folks know you're going to be at the soccer fields one evening, since you'll be there already, maybe dropping off a kid or two. That's a great option. Or perhaps you want to, cozy up at a local coffee shop or your favorite local business and hand things out that way as well. However you want to do it, that is up to you, but it is your responsibility to make sure that every adult is in full compliance and that they have the credential to represent that compliance. My last slide until I hand it over to Mary, risk statuses. So I'm actually going to click this link because I want to show you, especially the new folks today. This might be my actual favorite document that we have. This outlines all of the risk statuses. As I mentioned, there are only 3 that are going to allow for printing, and there are a lot more than that. So I love this guide because it tells you exactly what the risk status means and if there are any next steps for you or your adult participant. So this is a really helpful one to have handy. The second part of this guide is help with troubleshooting why an adult credential might not print. So this is just such a great resource to have handy. Okay. Let me drag this back over. And it is now my pleasure to pass it over to our Director of Safeguarding, Mary, to talk about safeguarding and policy.
All right, hello again, and thank you, Kayla. So I'm going to go over your responsibilities regarding safeguarding participants. As you can see on the slide, all organizations are required to have a risk management section on their website and link to our reporting child abuse and misconduct webpage, along with our required policies. It's important to understand that we're all mandated reporters. And in the words of the U.S. Center for Safe Sports, adult participants must know the reporting requirements under state and federal law, and ignorance or a mistake as to one's reporting obligations is not a defense. So we're going to briefly review those requirements tonight, and you can always reach out to me if you have any questions. So I'm going to speak to the first sub-bullet point. Again, keep in mind, all adult participants are mandatory reporters of child abuse and child sexual abuse. All adult participants are required to report sexual misconduct, and sexual misconduct involving a child is reported as child abuse. All adult participants are required to report prohibited conduct and minor athlete abuse prevention policy violations. So we call it the MAP, and MAP policies address limiting one-on-one adult contact with minors. And the reporting steps, again, are on the reporting webpage. So those requirements, along with the definitions of misconduct, are outlined in Appendix A and B of the Mass Youth Soccer Athlete and Participant Safety Policy. So to better understand those requirements, you are required to review the policy. And then before we move on to the next sub-bullet point, we have some great resources on the reporting webpage. So I'm going to do a call out to 2 of them. One help guide that you want to review to better understand reporting requirements is the U.S. Center for Safe Sports Reporting Obligations for Adult Participants. This document provides you with a quick overview of mandatory reporting and reporting of emotional and physical misconduct, which is prohibited conduct, and reporting of the minor athlete abuse prevention policy violations. Another important resource for your organization when it comes to handling misconduct reports is the reporting, response, and resolution matrices. This is a new document, and this document provides context for understanding different levels of misconduct, determining next steps, and it outlines what to report to whom and who's responsible for communications regarding the report and potential sanctions. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the next sub-bullet point, codes of conduct and zero tolerance policies. So all adult participants must review the applicable codes of conduct. Coaches are responsible for understanding their code of conduct and that of their players and parents, along with all safety policies, including concussion, return to play protocols, weather and goal safety, and other safety policies outlined on our website. All right, so to speak just a little bit more about the code of conduct, the players and parents, one especially, parents play a crucial role in preventing abuse and misconduct. They need to understand the difference between acceptable and unacceptable behavior and what should be reported and how to communicate this to their child. So it's beneficial to discuss the player and parent codes of conduct during the first team meeting, and setting behavioral expectations early in the season will help create and maintain a fun, safe, and healthy playing environment for the kids. So this brings us to our next slide. It is essential and required that you inform parents of your registered players about safe sport training for both of them and their minor athletes. The U.S. Center for Safe Sport offers the free training and has outstanding resources for parents to facilitate important discussions that help create that nurturing and healthy playing environment. And then another requirement that must be adhered to is the safe sport abuse prevention training for adult athletes. I know that was pointed out earlier, and then we're going to go just a little bit more into it. So adult athletes are players who are 18 years or older, and players who are 18 or turn 18 during playing season and play on a team with minor athletes must take safe sport abuse prevention core training. Also keep in mind that if they're under 18, they need to have parental consent, and you need to keep that parental consent on file with their certificate of completion. If the parents don't consent to the training, then once the player turns 18, they can no longer be on the field until this requirement is fulfilled and you have proof that they've taken the training. Okay, so the last safeguarding requirement that we're going to speak about is registration waiver language. Massachusetts Youth Soccer requires specific adult and player registration waiver language be used by our member organizations. So those waivers are on our website, and they're located on the Member Organization Toolkit webpage. If your organization uses the club product of Sports Connect and properly integrated their programs with Mass Youth Soccer, then the waivers flow down from the association level and no action is needed by you. If you're not connected to Massachusetts Youth Soccer, or you use a different registration system, you'll need to download those waivers from the webpage and add them to your registration process. So I'll give you a minute to review the next slide. This is what we just went over, and I know it was a lot, and I skimmed through the things because you'll need to look at the resources that are available to you. And when you come up with more questions, you can reach out to me. Kayla, if you can you go to the next slide. The key resources are on this slide. And again, you're going to get the slide deck. I know we're repetitive there, but I want you to know that there's even more resources on that webpage. So please review them and then reach out if you have any questions regarding any of this information. Okay. All right, I'm going to hand it back to Kayla now.
Thank you, Mary. So we're going to end this webinar by talking about, or rather the presentation part of the webinar, and then we'll do the question and answer section. But we're going to end this portion talking about player registration and that process. So we want to acknowledge that many risk managers also perform registrar duties, though not all. So this portion is really for those folks who do double duty, though there is a piece of this puzzle that will require the help of the risk manager. So on the slide right now, you see that we have all of our deadlines for the fall 24, spring 25 soccer year. You'll notice that there is an initial and a final deadline for each season. We totally understand that at the initial deadline, you might not know for certain all of your players and all of your adult participants, but we ask you to submit what you have at the time of that deadline. And then in the final deadline, final submission deadline, that's where you will, make sure that you're including anyone who has joined since you submitted the initial. As a reminder, a complete submission includes 3 things: the fee form, the player data, and payment. So all of the steps and all of the materials that you're going to need to present to us a complete submission are on the player registration webpage. And just a quick note about the player data. If you are a Sports Connect club user that has successfully integrated with Mass Youth Soccer. You do not need to upload player data in a spreadsheet. We already have your data. And then finally, just a few updates on the player registration process for this year. We did update the player registration language last November, so please make sure that you're using the updated language in registration for this year. And new starting this fall, officially, Jess and I are the point people for private clubs. So if you play in the NECSL, NAL, EDP, etc., we are your point people for player registration. If you are in a town program, and if your town program has an NECSL component, you will continue to send your player registration information to Rachel. All right, that was a lot of information, and we're really excited to dive into your questions that you have immediately and then to continue to support you through your journey as the risk manager. We're so grateful that you've stepped up into this role. We acknowledge that it's a lot of work and it's really important work. So we have the summary slide so that you know who to reach out to about what and how you can get in touch with us. So with that, we're going to open it up for questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that we can see each other and at least each other's names if you're not sharing your screen this evening. Jess has been monitoring the chat. So I can see we do have some questions in the chat. So we'll start with a question from the chat, but if you'd like to ask a question live, please, by all means, we'd love to chat with you.
Sorry, when you close your screen, my mute button moved. So I think we're pretty caught up in the chat. A few questions were regarding the admin credentials reports, and does it show who exactly has registered for the season? I don't know if you want to expand upon that. I know you're the report guru. No.
No.
Okay.
Do you want me to expand on it just a teeny bit?
Yeah, go ahead.
It has a Mass Youth Soccer registration field, like I said in the chat. And if that field has a date in it, that means the adult came through the registration through our portal and completed their adult registration. So it's really not expanding, but it's just saying it out loud so you have that information.
The second question was to do with whether or not board members need to be credentialed or not. It's always a good idea to have everybody credentialed. It looks great. Everybody wants the children to be safe, and knowing everybody's backed by Mass Youth Soccer is an amazing idea. There are a few exceptions to who does need to be credentialed, and I think I dropped a link into the chat for the document that kind of like outlines what those exceptions might be. But highly encourage everyone.
And I'll just say, yes, board members do have to be registered and in full compliance for the adult requirements.
We have a document on the adult registration webpage. I hope I'm sharing the right screen. Mary, I can see you. Will you not? Am I? Okay, thank you. On the adult registration webpage, most participating adults, that's the hyperlink. That's going to tell you everything you need to know about who is required and what they're required to do.
Let's see. One question. Every time you move your screen, it
Scott, I saw your hand.
goes away.
Jess, we're going to pop over to Scott, if that's okay.
Okay, sure, yeah.
Hi, everyone. I just want to shout out to Mary for being the voice of sanity over the last 4 years I've been doing this for my organization, and to the team. I don't know how you respond to all the emails. I honestly don't. But I saw the question from Phil, or looking for a testimonial. I kind of got thrown into the role too 4 years ago when I was a new board member, and oh yeah, this is a great job. You'll love it. I said, sure, all right. I want to volunteer. It is a tremendous amount of work, but it is also a role where you get to meet and interface with every single volunteer in your organization, and I feel well, all the help you get on a board level is critical. this is a role that is front and center with everyone. It's been a really rewarding experience to help and guide and teach and train. And I think our program has definitely gotten a lot better through that collective effort. And I think what we're learning through this process is a key part to that, especially the fun, safe, healthy playing environments component to it. So because it wasn't that way when I started, but it's rewarding at the end of the day, although it is a lot of work.
Well, thanks, Scott. I'm glad to hear all that too. It definitely is a lot of work, and we appreciate everything you do. And I have to say thank you for the shout out too. But we really do appreciate all the effort everybody puts in to create that good environment and just to ensure that the kids are in a safe or as safe as possible, right? Environment. So thank you.
I have a question. This is Jeff Pellissier.
Hi, Jeff. Go for it.
Great job, everyone. And Kayla, I work with you a lot, and Mary last season. So thank you for everything. You guys are fantastic. So looking forward to working with Rachel going forward. I guess really two things is one, at the beginning of this session, you mentioned that you migrated to a new web host provider. I've experienced, I use my work computer, and I don't know if there's a certificate that you're working through, but it says it's not secure, and it often does not allow me to navigate to the website. I have to disconnect from my VPN, and then usually go into like an incognito window. So I just noticed sort of navigating to this new site was a little more difficult than it was sort of last season's or pre-migration for you guys. So just something to, I don't know if others have experienced that as well, but been a little bit problematic to get on the site since I only have a work laptop.
So thank you. Thanks for letting us know. I don't know if Kayla and Jess have heard anything about that, but I have not. So that's really important information. And we'll talk to the director of operations and the executive director and let them know and try and find out what we can do about that. So thank you.
Yeah, and if you have any follow-ups, I could send a screenshot of like the error that I receive on a regular basis. Just I don't know if that's helpful to them. But I just figured I'd share that just for the user experience.
Yeah.
And then my second question is more, I guess, feedback. So in our town, fall is obviously the heavier lift, right? So I think last fall there was over 80 coaches and team managers, right, that need to get credentialed, and close to it this year. A lot of the feedback is just the disparate sites and how they all work together, and it's confusing for people. What I typically do, or what I've done this past spring and I did this fall, is the adult registration page that has sort of the 1, 2, 3 items, 1, 2, 3, 4 items, is I do like a screenshot of that and like a little text message next to each one that says like, hey, do this and then do that. And then, right, it's like a little user guide in the email body. Curious if there's others on, or just what the approach is to simplify sort of that first email that goes out to all coaches or anyone that needs to get credentialed, and how to just make it a friendly experience.
Kayla, on the same vein as what Jeff's talking about, do you think you could pull up the adult registration page and just take a quick spin through?
Absolutely. And I saw
Kind of address Jeff's question, but also kind of point out a few of the other links that people are asking about.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And while I do that, Scott, if you want to go for it.
Yeah, I just I wanted to I do the same thing, Jeff, where I copy paste from the actual site. The tutorial video that was new this year with the new system was a great, that's been working really well. So I did I just made a button through our bulk email thing that directed people to the video directly, and then links directly to the various registration pages to make it, nobody reads the emails. They just click on the first thing they see. So I try to make it as like, I don't know how to put flashing lights on the things I need them to do, but it's that in a combination of just, yeah, there's an email that goes out each day until I get everybody just to, I call it, I joke with my board, like, let the nagging begin. It's just people are
Yeah,
busy. they have
100%. And
vacations.
that's what like the previous risk manager did, is she had links directly to it, and there was still sort of that element of confusion how they should talk to each other but don't if you don't do all of the same information, right? All of that. So thanks for sharing that, Scott. I just didn't know if there's other things that just made our lives a little bit easier.
Yeah, so I like Scott's idea, linking to that video. I think that's the one that went out in the memo then about not taking the background check through the Learning Center. That what it was, Scott?
Couldn't find it on the website. How embarrassing. So I put it
Yeah,
in the
that's
chat.
the one. You
Where
sent
is
it out,
it?
I think, early August.
Okay. Yeah, and so we'll make sure we put it someplace that is very, very obvious even to the people that work here. But for now, the link is in the chat of the video that Scott mentioned. It's a brief, I think, 4-minute video that walks folks through exactly what they need to do. This is the webpage that was referenced, the adult registration webpage. It's organized by the steps. Right, and encouraging folks to use the U.S. Soccer Learning Center for their trainings, but not for the background checks. Say it with me, not for the background checks, because we don't want anyone paying money for those at this time. And there are additional video. Oh, there it is. Additional video tutorials in the resource dropdowns.
Yeah, so I'm basically doing, minus the video, I'm sending a link to this exact page, and then I just do a little screenshot with like a little text caption for sort of each step with like, hey, once you register, Corey automatically kicks off, so you don't have to do anything there. And
Yeah.
then the 2 courses, like how long each one takes, I do like a quick little blurb there, and just so that screenshot is in front of them on sort of what they should outline, and then there's a hyperlink to this page.
Love it.
The other thing I was going to mention that I do, I don't know if it's necessarily people not like people get confused sometimes, computer literacy challenges, but it's also just people aren't paying attention if they even check their emails. So what I do is I just publish every coach's status on each bulk email. So I keep a Google Sheet that I manage, and it's color coded. So basically, if you're not cleared, your name is in big bright red, and if you are, you're green. And that will oftentimes get people like assistant coaches or other people that know them be like, hey, I'm gonna need your help this season. Did you get the credential thing? And then all of a sudden I'll get an email from them, be like, oh, I never checked this, and my friend told me that this was going on. So I kind of like, it's like a strength in numbers type of thing, but accountability with our organization. Plus, if somebody's not clear and then they see that person out coaching, I've got eyes and ears all over the place, kind of keeping an eye out for things. That's been really effective too.
I do have a Google Sheet that we now go with the boys and girls director and like our junior academy, like the first and second and pre-K, and we all see. So the coaches, they know, like the directors know where the coaches stand, and then I'll do like the status at the end. But I guess it doesn't hurt to blast all of the coaches on the email, each follow-up to put them on notice. Cool. Thank you everyone for that feedback. That was helpful.
I have a question. Can you walk through if the concussion training doesn't flow over, the steps to remedy that, since there's not a certificate that they can download and we can upload for them? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yes, absolutely. That makes sense. Jess, do you want to take this or do you want me to take it?
Oh, I thought you were going to a website.
I can. All right. So 2 things. Let me share my screen again. So we do have, so I'm on the adult registration webpage again. And I'm scrolling down to number 2, complete required training. So we have a troubleshooting connecting required trainings to Sports Connect document. And that's going to tell you what to do, because it's different based on where they took the trainings. Oftentimes, so specifically for the US Soccer Learning Center, right, because they don't have any certificates, oftentimes, if there's not a connection between Sports Connect and the US Soccer Learning Center, it's an issue of a mismatch between their first name, last name, the email address they used, or their date of birth. So the first step is for the adult participant to confirm that they use the exact same information in both systems. If they didn't, say they used a nickname in one and their legal name in another system, Sports Connect needs to be their legal name, because we process our background checks based off of that name. So if there needs to be an update made, it needs to be updated to the legal name. So folks will need to update information directly with the Learning Center support team if they need to change it there. If they need to update their information in Sports Connect, that's a Kayla Mary Jess sort of situation.
And you can always try clicking the button, because sometimes it really is just a matter of timing. So sometimes the adult will take the training like 2 weeks after they registered with us. So it doesn't connect through the Learning Center. So you go into their adult registration account, 3/4 of the way down, click on Get Learning Center Updates. We do have a lot of success after the fact with that.
Mhm.
So, that would be one of the first steps to making sure that the matching criteria is correct, first name, last name, email address, and date of birth, and then clicking the button.
Now the question is, how do we know when Corey is approved? So there's 2 ways. From your risk management perspective, you can log in and see all of your admins and go down and look at their risk status. If you're asking from the actual adult, the coaches end of things, they can log into their Sports Connect account, and under the applications tab, they have all the little tabs at the top there. The applications one, it will tell them where they're at in the process as well. Just keep in mind, this time of year, we're getting flooded and flooded and flooded with registrations and queries and stuff coming through. So if it's not an instantaneous result, have patience. It's me doing it. Be nice.
Exactly. So if the risk status is approved, that means the background checks have gone through and they're approved. So that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, and you can also tell when you go to print their adult credential, because you'll see that red R, and that indicates more often than not, it's because we haven't finished processing the background check.
And then Paul had, I don't know if this is more feedback or requests, but the risk status report shows the date of recent change for each adult on the dashboard. The other report, like the concussion certificate or Safe Sports, don't have that data. Can that date be added? I use this to see who has updated their status over the course of the last week. So the risk status report shows the date of recent changes, but the concussion and Safe Sport don't. Could we potentially add that?
So the date for the concussion and Safe Sport training is on the adult credential dynamic report. I think we could ask, but it's hard to get them to update reports, and because they have that one all-inclusive report, I know it doesn't call out like that, hey, it's been updated, but it does have the date in there. And if you do your search based on who's registered recently, maybe that might give you a good idea.
Mary, can you hear me? This is Paul.
Oh, hey, Paul.
Hey, thank you for all your work. This has been great. I just that those reports, it is good to, on the dashboard, because I can look on the risk status, for example, and say, oh, here's 2 that happened this week, and say for concussion, say, I have 150 coaches, and I'm trying to find out like the 30 coaches that haven't done their concussion, or some of them have just recently. It's very cumbersome to figure it out, because now I have to run that other report and then sort it. I guess I can do that, but
You know what, Paul, they actually put in new search criteria on the adult lookup. Kayla, do you want to hop in there and do adult lookup and look at certificate information? Because that might help you out a lot.
so is that under admin lookup or?
It is. And then they have like the certificate, so concussion or safe sport, upload, verified.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah, I can definitely try that. It's just that the other one's nice. It's a dashboard, so. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, it gives you the say concussion cert, and you know, it just shows that 100 completed it, but there might have been 10 that did it this week, and those are the ones I'm trying to figure out if, you know, to check off the list. But okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Right. Narrow it down by date.
All right, looking at the time, I want to respect folks for joining us for the hour, so we'll pass it. If we didn't get to your question, we'll certainly follow up via email, but I want to pass it over to Mary to close us out.
All right, so like Kayla said, if you have questions that we didn't address tonight, please feel free to send them to us. And we can't thank you enough for joining us, and the feedback tonight was wonderful. I'm glad that you all got to chat too. It really helps us understand what you need, and we are here to help. So again, if there's anything, let us know. Thank you so much for your time. And I'll let Kayla and Jess maybe say a few things.
We're here to help, so please reach out. Those of you that were following along in the chat, I too was a risk manager and a registrar for a small town on the South Shore. So I've been in your shoes. I felt your pain. My kids still play. My kids play at the town level and the club level. So just don't hesitate. There's no stupid questions. Let us have it. We're here to help. That's literally our job, to help you. So let us have it. And thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.
All right. Yeah. Have a great night, everybody. Really can't thank you enough.